First of all, thank you, Michael Cloud, for speaking with us.
Sure thing. Great to be on with you today. It's certainly exciting up here, everything that's going on.
So, I want to talk all things Trump, his VP pick, and the convention as a whole, is what I plan to talk about. And I want to jump straight into things. As a member of the U.S. Committee on Oversight and Accountability, you guys are investigating the attempted assassination on Donald Trump. What can you tell us about the investigation so far?
Well, the details are still coming in at this point. We were supposed to have a briefing yesterday, but the Homeland Security Department stepped in and stopped the hearing. We pushed back on that, and we are expected to have a hearing in just a few minutes. We will have, or I should say, we'll have a briefing. We will have a hearing our first day back in Washington, and so there's so much to dig into this. Right at the outset, we need to have the director of the Secret Service resign. There's no way you come back from a failure like this. She has said that, we'll make sure this never happens again. That's not the job description of the Secret Service. The job description is to make sure this never happens, period. And so we'll definitely need to be pushing for new leadership, but also just to make sure that we figure out what went wrong, because this is an obvious fail for all the bravery that happened of the people willing to put themselves between the president and a bullet. There were some catastrophic failures that we've got to figure out what happened.
So you would say you do agree with the sentiment that the director of Secret Service was solely responsible, or do you think it was a group effort and the responsibility of the shooter getting that close?
Well, to have a rooftop that's in line of sight of the president is a major failure, and there's not an excuse for that. And this is a zero tolerance issue when it comes to protecting the former president and what I believe will be the next president of the United States. And so ultimately, we got to see accountability, and really the honorable thing to do in a position like this of such an epic failure is to resign.
Now, I've seen on social media, Twitter, well, X now, mostly people or some Republican leaders are pointing blame towards the Biden administration. Do you think that's a divisive comment to make, to put any blame on a different, like the Biden administration, to say they're basically behind the shooting?
Again, too early to really know, but the one thing we do know is that in so many agencies, including this U.S. Secret Service, we've seen a number of initiatives that have gone way beyond the scope of what their mandate is. In this case, we had the director of the U.S. Secret Service. One of their top priorities was DEI. In other words, we're going to be promoting people not based on merit, not based on their capability or their ability to protect the president, but based on certain demographic data. Now, this, in some cases in a federal government, it doesn't give a great return on investment for the taxpayers, but in a situation like this, it's dangerous to be promoting people who aren't capable. We've all seen the videos, or most of us have seen the videos of one Secret Service agent who couldn't even figure out how to holster their firearm once the president was secure in the vehicle. And so this is concerning. And so in that standpoint of having an administration who seems distracted on things that aren't important to the American people, there's certainly some blame to go around there. But the point of this isn't really to find blame just for the sake of finding blame. We've got to bring accountability to ensure like these kind of things do not happen. There shouldn't be any sort of tolerance when it comes to protecting the president.
Now, if you were solely in charge of this investigation on the attempted assassination of Trump, how would you handle the Secret Service? What would be the end game for you?
Well, again, there's a lot of questions we've got to ask right now. We're still in the gathering of data mode. We're about to have our first briefing. And so it's important not to start with preconceived in an investigation. You need to start with more questions than you do answers. And so I'm not going in with the answers selected already. I just have a whole lot of questions that we're going to be asking from all different kinds of parameters. One of the issues that's coming up is whether or not they might be saying their resources were stretched thin. Well, I know, for example, we're protecting other people who are not former presidents of the United States, and should they be receiving sort of the protection or not, and just looking where the priorities are and all these different sorts of things. So there's a lot to get into. We're certainly at the beginning of it, but ultimately, we shouldn't let this go without just saying how thankful we are that the president was protected in what really seemed truly a God moment to reach down and protect the president in such a moment, literally centimeters away from seeing the most tragic thing that could possibly happen.
And now I want to shift gears a little bit towards his new VP pick, who is JD Vance. What do you think about him choosing JD Vance as his running mate?
Yeah, really excited to see the selection of JD Vance as the vice presidential nominee. He is certainly, especially when you look at the comparison of the tickets and what we have going on, he is a very competent person. He's capable. And then one of the things that I love is he's courageous as well, because a lot of times what happens in conventions like this is we'll come and we'll talk about the big ideas, and those ideas important. The ideas that our our rights are a gift from God, not a grant from government. These distinctions are extremely important, but the ideas don't become reality unless we have the people with the courage to make sure that they happen. And JD Vance is one of those types of people. We've just worked together actually about a month ago. The news came out that we had been working together on a dismantle DEI bill where he had the Senate version of it. I had the House version of it. And so for somebody willing to take on the big issues and to work toward these big ideas, it's exciting to see someone like that be the vice presidential nominee.
So you are excited. I was wondering if you felt like his support from Trump fans would be a bit harder from him since he criticized Trump before. Do you think that will play into his running with Trump at all?
I think it actually helps because, and he will be the first to admit, he's like, Trump proved me wrong. There are a lot of people wondering when he went into the White House for the first time, could this guy who allegedly had no government experience pull it off? It turned out that was actually an asset. And what we saw under President Trump was we saw relative peace in the world. We saw historic Middle East peace deals. These are things that many presidents have tried and failed at. We saw an economy where virtually every single demographic was prospering in a way they hadn't prospered before. The gap between low income and your high earners was shrinking, and we saw a strong middle class growing. You can go issue after issue after issue where you saw that President Trump succeeded where others have failed, in spite of the fact that there were so many strong winds working against him, even within the bureaucracy. And so you can just imagine what we have to look forward to. As we head into this, JD Vance is somebody who saw the results and said, okay, this guy knows what he's doing, and we need him as president once again.
Now, I did my research a little bit on JD Vance. I didn't know much before the announcement. He has some strong views on foreign aid and abortion. How do you think that will impact him moving forward in the race?
Well, these are American first views. It's not that we don't care about the world, but we understand that our responsibility as elected officials of the citizens of the United States is to serve the citizens of the United States. And we do not need to be in every war that we're invited to, so to speak. We have to be careful and make sure that our borders secure, that we're protecting the homeland, that our families are secure. And the respect for life, that's an inalienable right in our Constitution. Life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. You can't have the pursuit of happiness. You can't have the liberties without the essential right to life. And so I'm happy to see that he's somebody who understands that. And again, happy to see that he's the selection.
And now Vance is a younger guy. He's not even 40 yet. What does having someone with some young blood in the office, what does that mean for the future of Republicans in the party?
Yeah, I imagine that was one of the reasons he's very successful as a young man. He knows what he's doing. He's a hard worker. Like I said, he's capable. He's competent. I would guess maybe that President Trump looked at him and saw maybe a little bit of his younger self in JD Vance. When you have somebody who's been very successful in the private sector, able to bring that experience into the government sector and do what we can really to restructure a bureaucracy that hasn't been working for the American people. It should be a good team as we head into the next term.
And now I just want to end the interview with a couple of questions about the Republican National Convention as a whole. Day one and day two were jam-packed. There was a lot going on. What's the mood like moving into day three?
It's exciting, but I will have to say it's different than a lot of political conventions I've been to. I think the events over the weekend, you can see in President Trump the remarkable moment when he walked into the arena for the first time after the events on Saturday, and there seemed to be even a new focus just on in his demeanor, and I think that's spread throughout the delegation here and even throughout the country, where we understand this isn't about party, this is about saving our nation, this is about us all doing. So there's in a sense, a somber focus, but a hope-filled focus in that, in knowing that we have an opportunity to do something really special on behalf of the people of our country.
And would you say that overall feeling shocked you at all, or were you expecting that coming into it?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Would you say that that feeling overall, did it shock you coming in, or were you expecting that on the way there?
Well, just coming in, we knew it'd be awesome to see everybody here, willing to work for the American people. Certainly, the events put this whole convention into, uh, just a remarkable moment in history. So it's certainly just a remarkable time to be here with everything that's going on, and we're very hopeful about the opportunity that's before us to do what we can to put this nation on its right course.
And my last question is, what should voters specifically in your area, our area, what should they know coming out of the convention?
Coming out of the convention, well, hopefully to show up at the polls in November. It's going to be very important that we do our part, but it's also important we have to remember that we're a nation of, by, and for the people, and so we fail even when we do our best to elect the right kind of people, but then we sit back and do nothing. And so there's something for us all to do. Certainly we need to vote, but also to participate in the process, be involved with the organizations that are going on that really make our community work. I know we have a community that does that, and so it's certainly an honor to serve them in the capacity here in Washington. But we all have our part to do, and so I just remind everybody that even certainly we need to do our part through the election, but after the election, we still have a work to do to make sure that we do, as Ronald Reagan said, we pass the blessings of liberty to the next generation and beyond. And so I know that we have those kind of people in our community, and again, it's an honor to serve them.
Well, thank you so much for talking to me. I'll definitely be in touch in the future.
All right, God bless y'all.